Hello, I'm going to read another essay for you. This one is entitled Gen Z's Blanketed Legacy. What will we be remembered for, and what gift are we hiding from? I thought I'd keep on theme with Gen Z talk after the last couple essays, and this one is about, our legacy. What will we be remembered for? Thinking back to older generations, previous generations, each one had a reputation for doing something, being known for something great, usually, if they're being remembered. And I think it's important that we as a generation stick to that notion of we're here for something, we're going to leave something behind. What is that going to be? So let's get into it. Gen Z's blanketed legacy. All that glisters is not gold. William Shakespeare. Gen Z is known to be sensitive, lazy, and immature, and while this reputation may be only half true, there is a blanket over the window that keeps the guilt-ridden exceptions in the dark, increases the visibility of neon light narcissists, and distorts whatever truth remains. Imagine a historian in the year 2100. Looking back at the last century, his job is to dust off digital footprints from each decade and distill them into respective chapters of his new book. As he sets his sights on the 2020s, he begins to tally millions of people who glamorized mediocrity online. Soon after, he sits down to pen the opening sentence. It goes like this: the 2020s were the years of stunted growth and victimhood, as the young and most capable sat back willingly, enfeebled and self-castrated, whining about the elder elites who control the systems that they themselves could have propelled if only they discovered the will to their own destinies and the capacity to be seen in a light greener than their narcissism permitted. What a terribly sad tale. And even sadder that it lumps everyone into a legacy of the loudest. The real ones among us feel guilty about their association with a culture of narcissism. They experience guilt on behalf of their counterparts who experience none. They overcompensate with humility in a vain attempt to reject the prideful, and in their hyper-humility, they conceal their gift. Ironic that whatever is popularly fake can pass as real when whatever is truly real is so ashamed of its rarity that it believes itself the imposter and grows shy. Here's the paradox of the rare diamond who looks out into the world and sees nothing but copies of herself. She wrongly perceives herself as the imitator, not the imitated, so she hides away in shame, and the rest of the world loses sight of who they aspire to become. In the same way, a portion of well-meaning Gen Z commits self-sabotage simply because they do not wish to be seen as a successful participant in a game they despise. However, a culture of true excellence can be reborn if we realize the madness of present-day digital reward systems and judge ourselves instead by the standards of history. We do not have to let the sensationalizing internet nuts steal the show and the pen of our legacies. We quiet authors, musicians, farmers, lawyers, engineers, scientists, doctors, entrepreneurs, and teachers ought to be unabashed and go all in on being great, so that those who merely simulate greatness can be ousted against the light of our gift. But why is the possession of a gift alone not enough justification for it to be shared with the world? Perhaps because we feel too powerless to give it justice. It is this feeling of powerlessness we adopted from birth that makes us feel like victims of a culture and not creators of it. Because as children, almost everything was given to us, and since we are the spoiled generation, reared by helicoptering, pampering parents, we figured the circumstances of the outside world were dictated by someone else, and thus we failed to develop agency. Conversely, the ones inclined towards narcissism and power games, who are immune to these environmental factors, exploit their non-competitive peer group. Now, surrounded by ineffectual peers, the narcissists have all these abandoned reins at their disposal. They pick up several of them and ride a chariot of horses across the finish line, while the rest stand back stunned. Then, by the time the stunned ones realize the reality of their disadvantage, they are forced to catch up on foot. Hopefully, after losing one or two races, it will dawn on some of these ineffectual but full of potential people that they should grab their own reins and keep up in the game of life. We are in our prime time, young and full of energy, ideas, and hope. This is the same age at which some of history's greats discovered their raison d'etre. Alexander Hamilton was one of the founding fathers of the U.S. Constitution at age 21. Blaise Pascal was not yet 19 when he invented the calculator. Queen Elizabeth could have been a graduate student at age 25, when instead she became the supreme leader of 7 Commonwealth nations. The conclusion here should not be to feel small by comparison to history's greats, but to see the enormous potential that also lives inside of you right now. So much that you can reclaim your right to your destiny from the noisemakers, narcissists, and neo-Marxists, who may very well have poetic justice waiting for them at the end of the road anyway. Perhaps the fakers will die on their own sword, and history will remember the real innovators by virtue of the long game. Hopefully that is the case, but not if too many geniuses blunt their aptitude in response to a guilty association with gloating peers. Or maybe the geniuses would rather be accepted and fit in, and so the blunting ensues all the same, to avoid embarrassing anyone duller. But this act of blending in will surely blind the wise and lead them into the wrong crowd, or worse, to the wrong end of a romantic transaction. Dating is another area in which Gen Z narcissism dominates. Because we have adopted such a casual attitude towards it, culminating in the adage hookup culture, the most immature parts of ourselves are enabled to achieve short-term gratification. Serving yourself for the moment turns others into instruments, the future into something incomprehensible, and yourself into somewhat of a child. But the good thing is, there is still time for us to grow up. What is actionable here is the capacity to spur your own maturation. We do not have to be the little kid sheltered by a blanket, trapped inside our dreams, waiting for the world to change like a bedtime story unfolding through the efforts of others. Let us summon some genuine character, relinquish the guilt of our gift, and turn our protective blanket into a trustworthy sail to sustain us across the rockiest of seas. Imagine again the author of the history book. This time he writes a chapter on the 2020s based on new findings of those who transcended their vacuous era and achieved true greatness. Gen Z grew up under the weighty misconception that everyone else would do their jobs for them, and so fell prey to myopia and apathy. But against all odds, they challenged this shortcoming and managed to turn the tides in their favor by innovating technology, stabilizing democracies, optimizing food systems, producing films, educating the less fortunate, venturing into space, honoring traditions, making music, and raising families to whom they passed on their gifts so that they too could pass on gifts again and again. In relation to the greatness of the 2020s, what will we be remembered for? Thank you for listening. Have a great day.